It is the Thanksgiving holiday season, and we are here at the Atlanta News First digital news desk talking today with Doug Bowman, a professor of marketing at Goizueta Business School here in Atlanta on the campus of Emory University. And with Black Friday and Cyber Monday kind of almost becoming synonymous with Thanksgiving, we all know, Doug, that big box retailers offer huge discounts really during all seasons throughout the year. So really just want to get a handle from you. Are small business Black Friday, small business Saturday, and Cyber Monday, are they even still relevant in this 21st century post-pandemic retail economy that we're experiencing?
Yes, absolutely. The 4-day shopping season kicking off on Black Friday is relevant for today's consumers. We've seen some research out there last year, 71% of people expected to shop on Black Friday. This year, I've seen data upwards of 82% expect to do some shopping on Black Friday. Obviously, discounts have started a lot earlier this year, and so as a proportion of people's holiday shopping budgets, I've seen some data suggesting that up to 20–25% of people's expected expenditures have already been spent. But I don't think that means that they're going to sort of slow down any with the coming deals that we expect to see from retailers that are concerned about inflation and its impact on consumers, and retailers that are dealing with just a lot of inventory, which is a complete reversal from what we saw last year.
So if I could ask you to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that, then I understand you to say that retailers have a surplus of inventory this year as opposed to other years.
Yeah, it's a complete reversal of last year. Last year, we didn't see a lot of discounting because there was some supply chain issues, some stocking issues. This year, it's the complete reversal. Retailers that have been forthcoming, Target is a great example. Last week in their earnings report, discussed the adverse effects of consumers slowing down their spending and on the amounts of inventory they've had. And they've been open about a commitment to get those inventory levels down and to use discounting for that over the holiday spending period.
So what's causing the surplus in inventory?
It's just what we expected last year, and when we're having some supply chain issues, there's a combination of retailers over ordering, retailers ordering the wrong mix of items. There was a lot of leisure wear purchases that we thought might have been trending up more than they were. Appliances, furniture especially, you can only have so many new couches and so many new end tables, and we were certainly purchasing a lot of that during the pandemic. And then coming out of the pandemic, we certainly expect some slowdown in those categories.
Shouldn't retailers have really seen this coming? I mean, why would they, over order some items? Was it a complete misreading of the post-pandemic economic climate? And
Yeah.
doesn't a surplus in inventory mean even better deals for people like you and I?
So first of all, let me answer that last one because that's an absolute yes, and we're going to expect some very aggressive deals, not only just over the 4-day Black Friday spending holiday period, but also through Christmas time. There are 5 Saturdays between Thanksgiving and Christmas Day this year, and so I'd expect the deals to ramp up, especially if in those first couple of weekends, if spending is a little bit slower than retailers expected. Your first question was how did retailers get themselves into this situation? Don't forget, orders take place, sometimes 12–18 months prior to when we sort of see it on the shelf, and there were a lot of concerns about supply chains issues, getting product from the manufacturers, many of them over in Asia, and retailers were just, kind of risk averse. And so they wanted to make sure they had product on the shelf and not get themselves caught like they were last year with stockouts. And so they were a little bit more aggressive, in ordering. And then, as mentioned earlier, also an issue with the mix of products that they were ordering. But the net is that it bodes really well for consumers like you and I, who are potentially willing to spend over the next few weeks.
We've seen such a trend toward among big box retailers like your Targets or Macy's or some other name brand or very big name retailers who are scaling back their brick and mortar operations to become more of an online shopping experience. Do most retailers get most of their income from online ordering, or does it actually still come from in-person shopping?
Well, it's a mix of both, obviously, and there's a trend towards more online shopping. I think last year we saw some data. There was more spending on Black Friday, or more people spending on Black Friday than there were actually in brick and mortar stores. Obviously, we're going to expect more people out and about this year, given we're kind of post pandemic. But it's obviously trending towards to more purchases online, and for retailers that means brick and mortar retailers, that means things like smaller footprints. It means repurposing space in their store for order fulfillment, for click and collect, things like that. One of the interesting things that's going to be we should watch for is just the feel of stores over the next few weeks. They got a lot of inventory. A lot of them are having challenges with staffing issues. Are the stores going to start to feel junky? With just overflowing with product that's where the shelves aren't sort of tidy, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes shop at my local Walmart near Chamblee at later hours, and it really seems like the stores are a lot more cluttered, a lot more merchandise just thrown on the floor. I mean, is that just an issue of staffing, and what is it that's driving the staffing crisis among retailers? What's causing that?
Yeah, so the challenge for retailers, obviously, one of the big challenges is sort of staffing issues, and then what do you do? How do you deploy that staff in the stores? You want to make sure people can get checked out, but you also want to make sure that you're not negatively affecting the shopping experience.
Do you ever envision a time 10, 15, 20 years from now where big box brick and mortar retailers will all but disappear, even more so than they have already? Or is that just a 21st century technological fantasy?
Yeah, we've been predicting the demise of big box retailers for a long time. One of the interesting trends is the digital first brands. Warby Parker, an example, sort of hit sort of a slowdown in the sense that you sort of tap out the people that are 100% online shoppers, and they've been opening stores, partly for order fulfillment, partly for just allow people to touch and feel the merchandise. And so there's always seems like there's always going to be a segment of the population that's going to enjoy the brick and mortar experience. We certainly need that for our big box retailers, but I think we need it even more for our, you mentioned Small Business Saturday. They thrive on walk-up business, people coming in, touch and feeling the merchandise. Yes, a lot of them have started online stores, but our neighborhoods need those businesses to be thriving to maintain the quality of life that we have today.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about Small Business Saturday. There's a romantic notion of a mom and pop store on the corner of the town square, but in small towns, rural areas across the nation. But Small Business Saturday, really takes the form of in your major metropolitan areas like Atlanta, Decatur, the outlying areas, just talk to us a little bit about what Small Business Saturday is and really what it means to our quality of life.
Yeah, small business is really, in some ways, the lifeblood for a lot of our communities. Small Business Saturday is an opportunity for us as shoppers to show a commitment to those businesses in our communities. Many of them struggled big time during the pandemic. There was a lot of closings. It also allowed some to, maybe ramp up their online mix of business too as well. But I think we as shoppers, if we want to have the quality of life in our neighborhood that we have today, we got to step up and do what we can to make sure that those small businesses stay in good stead.
What's the difference between Black Friday and Cyber Monday? You see Apple and a lot of tech giants offering Black Friday deals. What's the difference in their approach between those two retail sales events?
Yeah, so Black Friday is historically, it's been around for decades. It's historically been as its roots with the brick and mortar first businesses. Several years ago, the online retailers, devised the idea of Cyber Monday, and I think it's been good for retailing as a whole. It's really extended the shopping period from 1 or 2 days to now 4, even 5 now, if you consider Tuesdays a day for travel, the travel industry. And it's just really, I think, is trying to keep our focus on helping our retail businesses to stay in good stead.
Now, are Cyber Monday deals only applicable online, or if a consumer goes into an Apple store at Perimeter Mall or Lenox Square, will they still be able to take advantage of Cyber Monday offers?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's largely geared towards online. A lot of the deals are promoted online. Some retailers may, highlight those in their physical stores too as well, but my hunch is that probably varies by retailer to retailer.
So just, 10 years from now, are we going to have a Black Friday, a Small Business Saturday, and a Cyber Monday? Or will virtually every retail transaction be happening all year long over the internet through online transactions?
Consumers like events. We like to be sort of motivated to shop, and I think events like Black Friday, like a Small Business Saturday, like Cyber Monday, really get us in that shopping mood, and I don't see retailers backing off that. One of the issues, obviously, is that there's just sort of too many events. You mentioned Macy's a little bit earlier. I think there's every weekend since the beginning of October has probably been an event of some sort. But the big shopping events, it's hard to see those going away.
Is there such a thing as overkill when you're talking about events and retailers setting special weekend events, things like that, in combination with Black Friday and Cyber Monday? Are we ever going to get to a point where the consumer is just going to say enough and it's enough?
Yeah. Is the consumer going to sort of get sort of deal fatigue? Is one obviously, it could be the other way around as we start training consumers to only buy on deal, and it'll end up being in some ways a vicious circle. Consumers are lie in wait for a deal, and then we'll have to, as retailers, offer deeper and deeper discounts to get them to act. And so that's going to be a challenge for retailers going forward if current trends continue.
Is there a chance that retailers might even price themselves out of business by, just continually having deal after deal after deal in conjunction with the holiday shopping season? Are we ever going to run into a situation where retailers just literally just drive their own businesses into the ground?
Yeah, so a concern, obviously, with all the plethora of deals is that retailers are going to get themselves into a point where margins are just so thin then it becomes difficult for them to, difficult for them to stay, kind of stay in business. And what they retailers, the challenge is you want to have a long-term strategy, but the flip side is you need some short-term results. And we're certainly seeing some, what I would call some very short-term decisions that are being made from some retailers. The Gap is certainly one that comes to mind. I think I just saw a couple of weeks ago that they're now selling, they've opened up an online store on Amazon, or are now selling product online, which is the exact opposite with what a lot of the bigger brands like a Nike, et cetera, who have backed away from selling on Amazon due to margin erosion, sharing customer information, damage to the brands. So as we sort of watch these retailers, what concerns me is short-term decisions that aren't really, so it's hard to see how they're fitting into a long-term strategy.
You mentioned Amazon, and I think a week or so ago, we reported that Amazon was looking at laying off, several thousand people in warehouses. I believe it was in Kennesaw or somewhere else in Georgia. Amazon's the biggest global online retailer in the world. How does a company as large as that even find itself in a position where it needs to lay off people?
Yeah, I believe a lot of the Amazon layoffs was in their device business, Echo, Alexa. And so that was one, I guess, was a bet where they thought it was going to be growing, maybe a little more sort of quickly than it was. My understanding is the retail business is still flush. Warehouse layoffs. First of all, there's a lot of turnover in warehouse employees to begin with. They may just be unfilled positions. There's also a lot of automation being driven in a lot of these warehouses that could be behind that. But I think the announcement from Amazon was also we thought things were going to take off a little bit, sort of more than they did. And coming out of the pandemic, people like to go to stores. It's for a lot of people, it's fun. It's fun to actually go in and shop and touch and feel. And I think a lot of us missed that, and we're glad to see it back.
We're wrapping up our conversation this afternoon on the Atlanta News First Digital Desk with Doug Bowman, who's a professor of marketing at Goizueta Business School here at Emory University here in Atlanta. Just give us some final thoughts on overall retail trends as we get ready to take advantage possibly on some of the Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday deal. Just give us some final thoughts and observations of where we are economically and from a retail standpoint.
Yeah, some final thoughts. Obviously, inflation is lurking over the past, 4 or 5 decades. Whenever we've had periods of inflation, there's been large slowdowns in spending. So retailers are getting nervous. They also have a lot of additional inventory, especially compared to last year. And so as a shopper, if you're prepared to shop, I think you're going to see some great deals over the coming weeks. As someone who's an applied economist, I would say also to be prudent. Do you really need that second TV? Do you really need that appliance? I'm not saying to totally cut off sort of shopping, but watch the risk as you start to, especially as you start to draw down some of the savings that you may have accumulated during the pandemic when we were at a lower spending rate.
Doug Bowman, thanks for joining us.
Great, thanks for having me.
Goizueta Business School, he's a professor of marketing, talking about online deals such as Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday. Thanks to all of you for watching Atlanta News First.